We're here with the graduate students from the Institute for Gender and Development Studies, St. Augustine Unit. We have Aleah, Anusha, and Suan. And I'm going to start with Suan because Suan defended only a week ago, was it?
Yes, it was a week and a half.
A week and a half ago. So if you can begin, Suan, by telling us about your research.
Well, my research is basically draws that connection between language and gender, communication and gender, and conflict being the problem. I wanted to know how perceptions of gender identity influenced or how they were relevant to interpersonal conflict. And I was able to establish that it either triggered or aggravated that conflict. But what was even more outstanding was the perceptions of gender identity that were revealed. And I think that was something that really struck me even more than the central focus of the thesis. So that was exciting. Yeah.
And so how did you operationalize this language and gender question?
The aim was, I felt that people create reality intersubjectively. And we do so through language, and we do so at moments. So like this moment we're having here, we're constructing a reality. And if we change chairs over there, we'll construct a different reality. And of course the camera will have an influence on it because we're all studying our sides and whatever. Yeah, and so I decided to focus on language as it occurred in conversation. And therefore applied linguistic analysis, but in its post-structuralist sense because my work is feminist. So I wanted to uncover and challenge and whatever, all of these things, in keeping with feminist research, deal with a practical communication problem, focusing on language through linguistic analysis. So that's how I kind of made it happen.
So when you say your research is feminist, what does that mean?
Oh, wow. My research is feminist because it takes gender as a central category of analysis, one. Two, it attempts to look for competition, contradiction, and challenge within the voices, my analysis, and the revelations. So because we want to keep troubling things, and even in the paper, maybe there were times when I maybe didn't trouble enough. So the examiner was like, you need to trouble some more. I was like, how much troubling? So that is essentially, and of course the end product is emancipatory. You want to help people avoid destructive conflict. That's the real life application.
Thank you so much, Suan.
Thank you.
And speaking of troubling things and emancipation, let's move to Anusha, who will tell us a bit about your research. It's on migrant sex workers in Trinidad.
Yes. Okay, so I'm nowhere near Suan or Aleah's phase of research, but I am looking at transnational migrant sex workers in Trinidad. And while my research is still broad and that I don't exactly know how to narrow it or focus it as yet, I feel like it's necessary because it gives like a whole category of women voice. And I'm looking specifically at women. And it's very challenging because there's so many ethical issues especially involved and safety issues in dealing with women that are in an illegal profession. But I think one of the main things that I want to come out of this research is the way that we construct language and the way that we categorize people and things like, for example, migration and trafficking. And that it should, like those two things, for example, shouldn't be lumped together because it just kind of, doesn't take into account so many women that are trafficked or actually come as migrants but are not trafficked. So I feel like those distinctions need to be made and attention needs to be brought to that so that it could, influence legislation better.
And what brought you to this research area?
I mean, people always ask me that because my master's research is nothing, it connected in no way to this. It was on Indian womanhood and beauty pageants. And I believe that, it's good for researchers to be broad and to do things that challenge them. And I have no formal background in international relations, but the good thing about the IGDS in the MPhil PhD program is it's called interdisciplinary gender. So I get to have a supervisor from IR where I could have my political economy base on my research and still be a gender student, but just across, the faculties.
I agree.
Okay, thank you so much, Anusha. And speaking of interdisciplinarity, we have Aleah here with another very interdisciplinary project, like all three, and very close to submitting as well. Just putting the final I's dotted and T's crossed. And so congrats, Suan, and congratulations to Aleah as well. So if you could tell us about your project.
Okay, well, my project looks at women in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. So I'm looking specifically at the Hugo Chavez's his socialist program, which he unveiled in 2005, and really its impact on women, especially poor and working class women. So at first I really wanted to go in to see how women were really faring on the ground, because you read, depending on which outlets you look at, you would hear that many poor and working class women are winning ground. Their lives are improving because 21st century socialism, is one of those programs which it's not just an ideology. The benefits are material, and women, their lives are, becoming better. But I wanted to go in there to see, is this really happening? What's really happening? And that's where this, the interest of this project came from.
Could you tell us a bit about doing field work in Venezuela? What were some of the challenges, but also the experiences that you would have gained?
The first challenge is my lack of knowledge of the Spanish language. I've been studying Spanish for maybe 2.5 years now, but my Spanish skills still aren't great, perfect, I guess because of lack of persons to practice with in Trinidad. So that was the first issue. But and then at first, I did have some institutional support in Caracas, but I lost it. So I went in there in April 2010 without any sort of institutional support from Caracas. But great support from the IGDS and my advisor, Professor Norman Gilbert in IR. And I went in there and I was able to, through my little Spanish and some friends there, I was able to sort of make these connections, which sort of opened the door for me to go back a year later to conduct my field work. I did have to hire a research assistant, in fact 3, 2 in Caracas and 1 in Merida. And they were very instrumental, in having this project, happen, become a reality.
And what would you say are the conclusions you came to about barrio women and socialism?
Yes, at first my question was very sort of simple. A woman winning ground, losing ground in Caracas, especially Caracas. I did go to Merida for a little while, a couple of weeks, but I'm primarily focused in Caracas. What I did see there is, of course it's deeper than that, I have the simple question, it's deeper than that. 21st century socialism, like any other political, ideology per se, it impacts gender, because gender is sort of underpinned by these political and social relations. So, gender is definitely impacted. But I do look specifically at women, not men, men and women. What was very important, and I didn't set out to look at this, but it became the biggest chapter in my dissertation, was this idea of the de- and reconstruction of masculinities and femininities under President Chavez, where I see that he sort of has constructed women to be sort of these revolutionary, militant women, but while still preserving them as sort of like the mother of the nation, these biological reproducers. So I think that was the most interesting find, which is something I didn't set out to look at. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all. This has been a wonderful conversation. 3 fascinating projects, 2 very, very advanced, but 1 completed, another very advanced, and Anusha on her way with,
Hopefully.
Of course, definitely. With this support that you have at the IGDS and the interdisciplinary focus and strong feminist lens on all the research. I look forward to the future of these IGDS St. Augustine graduates and graduate students. Thank you.